This is a DKtronics Kempston games player interface, and I've looked at it a few times and wondered what it was, and it's not your standard Kempston joystick interface. So today I thought I'd take a quick look and show you guys what this thing is all about. I believe it went on sale in 1985 and it sold for £12.95. Now, I know it looks like a standard Kempston interface, but apparently it's not. What this thing is designed to do is slow down and actually freeze the game that's running on your Spectrum. So I thought that sounds interesting, I've got to take a look at that. This looks like an advert that I found for it. And what it says is, when playing any game at normal speed, the interface has all the features you would expect from a DK product. It is compatible with almost all games currently on the market and is fully microdrive compatible. But the clever thing about this interface, apparently, it has a freeze control built into it. And it says, after slotting the interface onto your Spectrum expansion port, you can adjust the speed of any game or program, or even freeze games by simply turning the speed control. This sounds interesting, and it says here the game's controller has an extremely wide appeal, young children and the disabled. Well, you'd never get away with saying that today in 2018. And less experienced games enthusiasts, programmers and software developers will find individual benefits. You can even slow games down to a complete stop and so improve your skills and high scores. Cheating, in other words. You can also freeze individual screens to examine them in more detail, and the freezer adds a new dimension to your games for cheating. I love it, at least they're honest. Right, here's our Spectrum setup, and sorry if I'm sounding a bit hoarse, my throat's a bit raspy. Right, so, oh look at that, just love this little machine. I mean, even just pressing the buttons on it, it's just like, that's lovely. Right. I've plugged the interface in, and I've dug out probably the most iconic joystick I can for this little computer. Now, I can't load anything off SD card, obviously, because we've got something plugged into the socket, so I'm going to have to go and dig out a tape and do it the old-fashioned way, so bear with me. Dug out an old favourite, Bubble Bobble. Everybody knows how that plays. I know how that plays, so I can easily see what the interface does to the game, so let's get this loaded in. Actually, just using this machine actually makes me really can't wait to get my hands on the next. I believe we're pretty close now. It's just some issues with the keyboard to be sorted out, and we should be getting our boxed Spectrum next pretty soon. Although I think it's more likely going to be spring next year now. I don't think we're certainly not going to get the next by the end of 2018, so I suspect it's going to be next year now. But never mind, I'd rather them get it right and get it perfect and ship it than ship something like, you know, some of the other Spectrum projects we've seen lately. Meanwhile, I've got this beautiful thing, so I'm not that bothered. Right, the game's loaded up. I'm just going to have a quick go standard. Okay, that works fine. I do miss the music though. No music on this version. Bubble Bobble's one of my favourite games. It's just an absolute classic. So that's working fine. So what I'm going to do now, right, so I've turned the interface on and I'm going to turn the dial. And yep, the game does slow down. That's brilliant. I wonder how it does that. So what I've done now, I've turned the dial all the way anti-clockwise, and you can see that the refresh rate has got so slow that it's almost unplayable. I'm going to turn it up a bit. I'm turning it clockwise. Yeah, and you can see the game speeding up. That's brilliant. Okay, so let's turn it right down. I'm going to turn it right down. And even the sound is messed up. So what it's doing, what it's actually doing is slowing down the processor, I think. I don't know, somebody might be able to tell me what or how this thing works. what it's actually doing is slowing down the CPU cycles so that the whole game slows right down. There you go, and you can see each character being refreshed as the game cycles. So let's turn it back up again. So that's normal speed. That's brilliant. I'm going to try another game. Let's try another game and see how it behaves. Right, I found a Mastertronic game here called Star Fast. Never ever heard of it. Let's check it out. Okay, so this is Star Fast. It is a vertical scrolling shooter and it doesn't look too bad. It's actually quite tricky. So what I'll do now is slow it down. And you can see the screen refresh slowing right down. There you go, so you can see it now, update, refreshing the screen. There it is, plainly obvious what it's doing. And there you go, that's it at its slowest. That's the slowest speed it does. And you can see it refreshing the page quite clearly. And you can actually see a bit of attribute clash there. If you look at the bottom, look at the ship at the bottom, you can see a bit of attribute clash as it refreshes the screen. If you watch there you go. Clearly a bit of attribute clash going on there. So let's wind the speed back up. I don't even know if I'm firing anything. Oh yeah, there you go, I am firing something. How cool is that? So somebody's going to tell me how this works. I'm sure somebody knows. It looks like it's either adjusting the clock speed of the CPU or it's doing something else that's quite clever. Or it might be not clever at all. It might be just doing something very, very simple. But it looks like it's slowing the processor down. That's brilliant. So I'm going to turn it off now. There you go. So that's the Specky at full speed again. What are my thoughts on this thing? Well, for $12.95 you're getting a Kempston Joystick Interface, which is a vital piece of equipment that any Spectrum owner needed back in the day. Let's take a closer look at this thing. So on the top here we've got a standard Atari style 9-pin joystick interface. There's your switch for turning there's a switch on it for actually turning on and off the slow motion feature, and there's a dial that you turn that adjusts the speed. This device has got a really tight interface connector, and let's be totally honest, it needs it, because back in the day, if you were a Spectrum owner, the last thing you'd want to do is touch your Kempston joystick interface once it was plugged in and you had a game loaded up. Only the brave would want to go anywhere near that interface once a game was loaded in, and people used to blue tack and Velcro their interfaces to the back of the Specky, and this one has a really nice tight fit on it. And in use, the Specky didn't crash once, so fair play for that. As far as its other features go, I'm not too sure. Can you cheat with it? Well, if you call slowing down your CPU so that the game is absolutely crippled and you can't play it at all, and that's your idea of cheating, then great. But I think you couldn't really cheat with this thing because, like I said, it cripples the game, so you can hardly move, you can't... it's not like it's just slowing down the enemy and allowing you to move at the normal speed, which obviously is far beyond the capability of an interface like this. It actually slows everything down so much that you can't play the game. So, if you just want a device, I suppose, that just slows everything down, yeah, it does its job. It's great if you wanted to take screenshots and screen grabs and things. And for the geeks amongst us, it's brilliant for looking how a screen refreshes. If you want to look at how the sprites move, the screen refreshes, it's absolutely brilliant for that. But I think as far as cheating goes, no, it's not really going to help you. But that's what my thoughts are on this little thing. For 12 quid, it's a nice little interface and it would have done the job back in the day. So, did you have one? Do you know anyone that had one? What are your thoughts on this? Let me know, I'm quite interested. It's certainly an interesting little gadget. Take care, I hope you enjoyed watching that, and we'll catch you again soon. Bye bye.